in Virginia.
You better turn that daggone thing off.
To this underground poker room in Texas. But illegal gambling is moving out of the basement and onto the internet, where it's more difficult for law enforcement to stop, but not impossible. Jay Cohen is the first American prosecuted for running an online bookmaking operation.
We didn't feel we were doing anything illegal. We were not hiding from anyone. We were using our real names and operating in plain daylight.
The story begins in 1996. Cohen works as a trader for the Pacific Stock Exchange in San Francisco, trading options to buy stock.
The truth is, I was just booking bets on stocks. You know, buying and selling calls and puts are nothing more than buying and selling bets on stocks. So, yeah, that was a good business. But this was a chance to get on the ground floor of a new industry.
Cohen sees an opportunity in sports gambling on the internet. He and his friends call their idea World Sports Exchange. Essentially, they will be online bookies and serve sports bettors across the globe. For the new company's headquarters, they settle on Antigua, a Caribbean island with a permissive attitude toward gambling. After a review of the business plan, Cohen's attorneys sign off on the venture.
They felt if we were wholly located in Antigua and it was legal in Antigua and we had no employees in the U.S., that it was legal.
Business takes off. In its peak year, the site books more than $200 million in wagers.
It was funny because all these other places at the time would brag about, oh, we have so many hits and so much traffic. And I was sitting here saying, I'm bringing in dollars, I'm bringing in actual transactions, when everyone else was just counting traffic.
Then comes a gentle reign of favorable press.
Wall Street Journal, Washington Post.
Cohen is portrayed as a smart entrepreneur, bringing bookmaking out of smoky bars and into the world of venture capital. Cohen doesn't know it at the time, but among his bettors are undercover FBI agents. They are gathering evidence for what will become a massive criminal case. Joe DeMarco is a former assistant U.S. attorney for the Southern District of New York.
And was certainly more sophisticated than your corner bookie. His operation was a lot more polished and used technology in new ways. But at its core, the actual conduct that was occurring with regard to the World Sports Exchange was fundamentally no different than the conduct that any illegal bookmaker would engage in.
On March 4th, 1998, the U.S. Attorney's Office indicts Jay Cohen on charges of running an illegal gambling operation. He faces up to 5 years in prison. From the United States' point of view, it doesn't matter that gambling is legal in Antigua.
Mr. Cohen pitched his activities to United States customers. He specifically advertised in U.S. publications, inviting Americans to wire money down and bet off of accounts that they funded with the World Sports Exchange. So his activity was fundamentally directed at Americans.
Back in Antigua, Jay Cohen has a choice. He can stay on the island, which will provide him safe harbor, or he can go back to the U.S. and fight his case.
And I voluntarily returned because I thought this was ridiculous and no judge would let this stand. And I told my lawyer, I said, I don't care if they kick it down to littering, I'm not pleading guilty.
I was not terribly surprised that Mr. Cohen came back and answered on the warrant, in part because I believe that a certain amount of pride and hubris was at play with respect to Mr. Cohen and his activities, and I believe that he thought he could beat the system.
At trial, Cohen does not dispute the facts. Rather, he challenges the law used to prosecute him, the Wire Wager Act. Passed during the Kennedy administration to crack down on bookmaking by organized crime, the Wire Wager Act makes it illegal to use phone lines to bet on sports. Cohen claims it doesn't hold up in the internet age.
Well, my first position was, we're out of your jurisdiction. We are running a legal business in another country. Leave us alone.
His defense just didn't hold any water because it is clear that when someone picks up a phone or logs onto the internet and communicates with a website or a business overseas, that their activity is taking place in both places. To suggest that nothing is happening in the United States or Antigua, but that it was all happening in this world called cyberspace is just fanciful.
A jury finds Cohen guilty, and a judge sentences him to nearly 2 years in federal prison. Ironically, the prison where he serves his time is just a few miles outside Las Vegas. From his cell, Cohen can see the glow of the Strip.
So, yeah, there I sat. Well, just like the courthouse, I'm being tried on the, I think it was the 18th floor, and they were selling lottery tickets on the ground floor. I've never been in trouble with the law. I run a legal business in a foreign country. I operate openly. There was no allegation of fraud or anyone not being paid. And now, here I am sitting in prison on a 21-month sentence.
After serving his time, Cohen returns to Antigua, but there's no going back to the good times. In 2006, the U.S. passes the Unlawful Internet Gambling Enforcement Act. The law makes it illegal for websites like World Sports Exchange to collect money from gamblers in the U.S. It has a devastating effect on the industry. At its peak, at least 3,000 Antiguans are employed by internet gambling. Now, it's fewer than 400.
Has completely choked off the ability of U.S. gamers to transfer funds to accounts in Antigua. And as a result, people down there can't get paid. People can't get paid, there are no jobs.
Cohen and his advisors believe that the U.S. can't discriminate against internet gambling while it allows other forms of remote gaming like state lotteries and off-track betting. They persuade Antigua to take the case to the World Trade Organization. It's David versus Goliath. Surprisingly, Antigua wins.
The WTO was very clear on this point. It said, because you already allow remote gaming services, you have off-track betting, you don't have to go to where they pull the balls out of the hopper to buy your lottery ticket. You allow those services, so you have to allow others.
The WTO says that Antiguan online gambling operators should have access to the U.S. market. So far, the U.S. has ignored the decision.
The last administration was so intellectually dishonest about all this that even when we won, when Antigua won, they put out press releases claiming victory. Okay? And it was maddening.
And while the Antigua case may be viewed by many as small potatoes, what happens when we win cases against China or the EU that are worth billions and billions of dollars, and the Chinese or the Europeans turn around and say, you know, why should we comply?
World Sports Exchange is still a going concern, and Jay Cohen still lives in Antigua. He says he'll never return to the U.S.
It's sad. I mean, it's my native country, but I just have a real problem with it.
Up next on CNBC Investigates, it's the biggest cheating scandal in the history of online gambling. $22 million stolen, and the victims fear they have nowhere to turn.
You can't go to your local police. You can't even go to the FBI. There's really no one to go to.
For more information, go to our website, illegalgambling.cnbc.com. Be right back. The 1919 Chicago White Sox, baseball's all-time hits leader, Pete Rose, and disgraced basketball referee, Tim Donaghy. What do they have in common? They're all examples of the potentially corrupting influence of gambling. RJ Bell is founder of sports betting information website pregame.com. He says crooked gamblers and athletes fix games more often than many people realize. He says college athletes who receive little or no money are especially vulnerable.
So you go to a college kid who most likely is not going to play professionally.